Hello, I'm Jeff Johnston. Welcome to the Living Undeterred podcast. I'm super excited for our guest today. Sometimes you meet people, you feel like you've known them for a long time. DeeJae is one of those people. I've known her for a short while on social media, and due to COVID, we've all been locked up and behind our computers and developing relationships and friendships of people we've actually never met face to face. DeeJae is somebody that's an interesting story, and I'm very excited to hear about how she has just really taken off and become what I call one of the better social influencers that I see on not just LinkedIn but all social media platforms. And she really has a lot of guests on her show. I'm gonna have her talk about her podcast and things like that. But people have been following my story know that I'm looking to be surrounding myself around people that have this living undeterred mindset and lifestyle. And I actually saw one of her podcasts. And I thought, wow, I think it was a mental health podcast she had. And I thought, this is a great topic that I need to get to know this person. And I was honored to be a guest on a live stream that she did. And from there, I reciprocated it tonight. So without much more further ado, DeeJae DuRante, if I have that correctly.
Yeah, that's fine.
Welcome to the Living Undeterred podcast. Why are you here?
Thank you. I'm here because you invited me, and I felt that kindred spirit and energy. So yeah, we're here to live undeterred. That's the way we've been living.
Yeah, and you don't lack in the energy area. That's one of the things I think anyone that follows your podcasts and a lot of the writings you do are very passionate, very inspired, and you certainly don't lack energy. So I think that's helping you a lot in your causes that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to use my energy for the good rather than the bad. I know that can be interpreted in many ways, and I think you know what that means. So
yeah.
We'll touch on that, and we can dig into that later. But really, it is about using that energy and turning it for something good and helping others. That's just the way I've always felt about what I've wanted to do. I've always been closely related to the mental health community, the disabled individuals that go through things in their lives and trauma, a lot of trauma. So worked in various populations for good 20 years, and I've just really find it a strong passion and a calling to work with individuals and give them some of my energy to help them move forward in their lives.
So your podcast you do, can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about how long you've been doing it?
Sure.
What type of people are you looking for, and what's kind of the
Sure.
most, what's inspirational about your podcast? Why should people listen and watch your podcast?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so I'll go start with my background a little bit. My background is I'm a disability navigator and also live stream at night, which means that I work with individuals with disabilities to move forward in their lives, find opportunity and employment and whatnot. And I really enjoy that. And I've crossed all the years of working in social services and with different individuals with different barriers to their livelihood and opportunity. I really felt like everyone felt so isolated. Everyone felt so alone. Everyone felt so frustrated. And then when COVID hit, everything just multiplied. And I think even in that year of 2020, I too felt a little bit isolated, being an extrovert, being someone that really enjoys being around people and being in my community. And I felt a little isolated. I'm like, what can I do? And how can I share? How can I interact with other people? How can I get other people to interact with those? And how can I advocate for all this isolation and all this trauma and all this depression and all this anxiety that
Right.
people are feeling, all these overwhelming sensations that people have never really been exposed to or even allowed themselves to feel. And when we're confined, when we are quarantined, you really have to
Right.
come to terms with a lot.
Yeah,
There's a lack of escape. So in that, I found the time to build the live stream show, and really that was to highlight the voices of other individuals, again, with their trauma, their stories of trauma, their stories of their mental health, and all the barriers that come with that, and all the difficult struggles that they go through, and how can we help each other? How can we say, you know what, I've been through that too, and you're not alone. It's happened to me too. Or, hey, that sounds kind of like what I've been through. And how can we just continue to connect on a more human level rather than the superficial level in that sense? So
Yeah,
that's what the show's about.
The conundrum to me is, you know, we're you and I didn't invent this narrative. It's been around a long time. Yet, I'd say right now there's probably more attention to mental health, suicidal ideation,
Yes.
Depression, anxiety, more information out there. Yet the numbers are progressively worsening. Everything from suicide rates. I know when Seth, our son, died of his heroin overdose in 2016, there was 54,000 Americans died of overdose. Last year was 96. Yet everybody knows what fentanyl is. Everyone knows about opioids. Everyone knows about all these things that can literally kill you instantly. But the numbers are getting worse. So where's the disc? Where are we dropping the ball as you and I being advocates of mental health? Sure, we're doing podcasts, writing blogs. I'm going on shows. You're going on shows. But it seems like nothing's working. What is going to work?
What is going to work, I don't know. But we do know that there is a terrible lapse. There is a huge gap in the system. The system does not really assist individuals. There are so many different holes where your wheels keep spinning. All these constant sidelines that we come to, lack of care, like insurance, right? Lack of insurance or lack
Right.
of services, accessibility of services. Then you start, lack of financial, like the co-payment in itself, or you have to pay for the medications. Maybe it's like there's some cultural things or some, you want to consider all those other factors that individuals have to consider, right? What, geographic locations and what's, are they rural? Are they in urban areas? Are they in suburbia? And I just know that the government in itself, and although the government is not supposed to provide everything to everyone, there still is a dependence on our government to kind of, assist in some way. And I know with the government and what we have available to us, and then private sector doing what they want to do, it's chaotic. And I think that people just get constantly spun around and cycle of doors, right? In this door, out that door. I can't help you. Why don't you call this other number? Or that number can't help you. You're calling the other number. And then before you know it, you're getting back to the same number that couldn't help you. And you're in a dead end. It's a constant dead end. I think a lot of people feel like there's a dead end at every turn. And that leaves you in a state of desperation and disappointment. And then you internalize that.
The problem seems is not an issue with how many facilities we have. There's 15,000 treatment centers in the United States. It's a $55 billion industry. There's like 4 million people in treatment.
Okay.
We can keep building treatment centers in every corner, and I'm not sure that that's going to help the problem. And I also don't think going after big pharma or the drug cartels is to me, it's not a supply side fix. It's a demand side fix. Why did my son think heroin, or obviously he didn't, but why did he think that night heroin was a good option, considering all the other options out there to release his tension, release his stress, whatever? Why did he pick heroin? And if I could figure out that moment of decision making, that tree that he had in his head, yes, no, do I do it, do I not, and then figure out, why didn't he just say no? I know it sounds so easy for me to say that, but I look at some of the things I did in my life when I quit gambling, I quit drinking. I just simply said no. I just stopped. I got tired of being tired. So I think from the demand side, and this is where I want to live the rest of my life, is on the demand side. I think I've had a number of people in my life recently to be sensitive on some confidentiality and so forth. I've dealt with a number of deaths in my life very close to me that have been substance abuse related, and the helplessness feeling of trying to be the savior is so unrewarding when the outcome is inevitable. That death
Devastating.
is likely. And so as someone who's trying to be that person, I'm not doing a very good job at that. And so maybe it's like, maybe I need to go after the kids. Maybe I need to get to the 14, 15, 16-year-olds and have my Living Undeterred projects, have all my emphasis on the next generation of alcoholics and addicts, instead of just trying to be another savior of somebody who's struggling. I don't know. I'm teetering back and forth on what's my worth to society. Is it just to be another rehab advocate or an AA meeting provider? Or just say, you know what, there's enough of that out there. I'm not giving up on alcoholics and stuff, but I want to go help the kids. That's how we fix it. So this 55 goes to 95. It doesn't go to 120. That's what keeps me up at night, is how do I get these things to turn around? Yeah. And I don't know. I'm like you. I don't have any. I'm just a dad from Iowa, DeeJae. I'm no freaking expert in anything. I'm a sponge. I really enjoy learning. I really enjoy alternative views on things.
Yeah.
I think marijuana should be legalized. I think psychedelics is an area that we need to explore, especially with end of life and Alzheimer's and ADD. Here's something that I've lost 2 people to substance abuse. You'd think I'd be anti-drugs, anti-alcohol, I'm not. I'm very open-minded on these things. So I'm hoping by meeting people like you and more people like Brian Wall and Patrick Moore and Amy Olseth and very much more intelligent people than I am on these topics, that we can all get together as a collective think tank and provide resources to people that they don't turn into my son, and make those decisions.
Resources. A variety of resources, right? Not one type, not 2 types, different types for people's different needs, which is something that you find in any of these types of discussions. Really is just being more open, being exploring what you don't think, what you've been told that is not good for you or what is not healthy, and finding an alternative way to live, alternative way to cope, alternative way to look at things. And I think that's part of the work that I do, is because when you're working with someone and you're helping them get from point A to point B, like they have to do the work. It's their internal motivation and movement that they have to find within themselves to keep themselves going. So whatever that case may be, whatever that vice is, whatever that trauma is that's holding them, we just need to meet them where they're at and surround them, see what they need, and give them options to allow them to explore and find healthy ways for them to grow, to find that healing, to find whatever it is that they need to find. Everyone, needs.
What would be some healthy? What are some healthy ways? What are some options that I can think of a few, and we're probably the same ones you and I are thinking of. But what are some you can think of?
Healthy ways for specifically what do you mean? Just coping and getting
through
things. Yeah. I mean, we can state the obvious, right? We got the self-care obvious ones like, sleeping more or eating better or exercising or, journaling, all those good things, positive affirmations, meditation. We've all heard those things. But, taking it a little bit further, right? Like, okay, we have our animals, right? We talk about animals, sports, getting out there, moving, finding other ways to connect, possibly maybe express different things. Find ways to express your emotions in a different way. Maybe a new hobby, exploring a new way, a new medium of expressing yourself, whether it's through dance or art or some silliness, right? Maybe you need to use your imagination more and explore different values that instead of ruminating in what doesn't work. But I know it's hard, can't see sometimes.
I heard someone say, be in motion.
Yeah.
So when you're having a traumatic event, like I've lost a son and a spouse now, and in all within 4.5 years, and I have learned that being in motion, keeping moving, really anything, it doesn't really matter. The worst motion is inaction. So if I can get up early, go to bed early, read, run, write, do podcasts, and just not, it's hard to explain, Sounds like I don't care.
Not to me. No.
But not moving on, but absorbing Seth and Prudence in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't want to move on. And I never, ever bought into that narrative. Hey, get over it, or this will build scar tissue. You become a stronger man. It's like, no, I want to become I want to be a new man. I don't want to be rehabbed. I want to be reinvented. I don't want to go back to the past and be what I was, because that is dead. All that's literally dead to me. The past is dead. I mean, in reality, all we have with memories and experiences are the emotions we attach to them. So
yes.
If I only go back in time to my memories and attach all the moments that make me sad,
yes,
I don't want to do that. It's not productive for my health.
No.
So do I want to think about my wife and my son? Absolutely. But typically the things that make me feel good.
Right. No.
What would they want me to be doing?
Right. And I agree with that 100%. And that's why I really support, your process is your process, and the way you need to keep going is the way you need to keep going. Because I would never want to see you get stuck. And if anyone wants to see you get stuck, what's wrong with them? Like, Jeffrey's moving, Jeffrey's doing things, like he's not getting stuck. That's the best thing. That's what, for me, I couldn't be any more happier for you, because it shows that you're still continuing to live, and not just become encapsulated, encased in this like sadness and this like that can really like that's where you go downhill fast, right? And it's like avoiding that slope, like not falling, like not going down that slope. So I agree with you, and I wanted to go back to something you said was like the emotions, right? And then even in memories. So we talk like reframing. It reminds me to think of reframing, like, like thinking of those bad memories, or just like, so any trauma you have, like, how do you figure out, like, you're going to have to figure out a way to separate from, distance from it, let it go, because the trauma's there and you're holding on to it and it's yours, right? It's, there's nothing you can do about the past, but you want to try to find a way to move that emotion into a different space, change that emotion, and transform it for a better perspective, for your own health, for your own,
your own well-being.
Well-being. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So absolutely, and I support that. It's very important.
The Stoics really identified the need to reframe, and I wrote a blog about a month or two ago on, do you need a new frame? And I was talking simply about, and I learned this through meditation, and I know you meditate as well, is when I look at something that evokes an emotion from me, or let me go back a minute. Let's say I have a memory, and I have a memory of my son, and it's a memory that's making me now start to become sad. Through meditation, I've learned that the memory itself is fine. It's the emotion I attach to it I need to expunge. I need to just let it go away. And so I've really learned to just kind of nip these things before they fester. Now, I allow myself complete meltdowns. I think that's very fresh and rewarding, and it's like a reset.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'll be just 2 days ago was probably the worst day I've had since Prudence passed away. Just going through boxes, and it was either one box of Seth, and then a box of hers, and a box of Seth's, and a box of our wedding. It was like, holy shit, I can't take this anymore. I cannot open another box. But I'm like, I'm already here. I'm 80% into hell. Wow. I need to go all the way. So I just kept opening up boxes, and now I'm done. I went through them all. So I don't have to have that linger to tomorrow. Now I know what's in every box. I went through it all. I read everything. It's now shut up, and I put it away literally, and I'm putting it away in my brain. But I never want to forget about them. I just want to forget about a lot of the stuff that's in those boxes that just pulled non-productive memories from me, almost illusions, almost not real, that I just don't want to participate in. And so
easy to get caught up in that. It's so easy to spin and unwind and just go down those.
Play the what if game.
Oh yeah. So yeah, no, it's good. It's healthy that you just really intentionally have the pieces, and then you have, you set that intention of what you're doing in that moment with them. So it's a positive, welcoming, warm experience moving forward when you think of them.
So since this is about you, I'd like to find out, without being overly personal, but you're obviously in a space that makes me feel like you've had some grief or trauma or something in your life as well. So I ask people all the time, what is your why? What I do, why I do it. What would you tell a person that watches your podcast or kind of is following your story? What would you tell them what your inspiration, your motivation, what your why is?
My why. My why is about connection and people. My why has always been about... although I talk a lot about trauma and mental health and disability, I've been a fairly healthy, safe, well-protected individual. I've been given gifts of life, and I've only felt that those gifts should be shared. I've always felt that I have enough energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, light, to share, and I don't need to keep it, and I don't need to hog it. And it's like, no, please take some. I've got a little too much. How can I make your day better? How can we move you forward a little closer to where you want to be? I get great joy and a sense of satisfaction and just like my work is done when I see someone achieve that goal, whether it be the smallest goal. And that's something I constantly talk about. It doesn't matter, because of the trauma, because of the mental health, because of the disability. Like, any small achievement is worth celebrating, and to see someone move forward one step, given everything that they're carrying, all the weight that they carry on their shoulders, given all the barriers and all the social stigmas and all the discrimination and all the oppression that they are constantly handed, they still can find space and energy to inch forward. To me, that is like, that's what we should be doing as a society. That's what we should be doing as a whole. Lifting each other up, right? Kind of generic, but in a sense, that's really what it is. It's because I have been blessed, because I have been given these gifts, and there's others that haven't had it, that have had it very, very hard, very difficult, very, like, to me, it just, how could I transform their lives in a moment? How can I give them something to hold on to for the rest of their lives? And to me, that is through what I do, whether it's an inspirational piece or just knowing that there was someone that believed in them. When I worked with kids in foster care, it was the same thing. I always hope, like, maybe there's one kid that I'm going to talk to. They're going to be like, dang, Miss DeeJae, you're so cool. Like, I'm never going to forget. You told me this. I remember you telling me this. I'm never going to forget that. And I'm like, that's it right there. Like, your worth. Don't let anybody take that away from you, right? Like, and I get it. So when you talk about the youth and you talk about adolescents and you talk about, like, that age group, like, I feel that, because here's a little insight that I don't really talk about. But when I worked with kids in foster care, they love to give me the adolescents, okay? And I was like, why do you keep giving me these adolescents, right? Like, babies in foster care, babies to be adopted, they're babies, right? They're cute, they're cuddly. They don't skip school. They don't do drugs. They don't get pregnant. They don't curse at you, throw things, break things in your home. But they would be like, Miss DeeJae, we got another case for you. Is it another adolescent? Yes, it is. You work so well with them. They really, they're receptive to you. They like you. They listen to you. Right. I have to give you this case. And you're like, all right. But again, it's just using what you have and using what I had to help others in any capacity. So that's just me working with adolescents, at-risk youth, And then, or you work now with job seekers with disabilities. But still, or whether I was working with individuals, low income, cash assistance, TANF, just absolute, below poverty levels, just scraping to move forward and make a better life for themselves, and just seeing that, and me knowing that I have what I have, I just want to continue to give and share. That's pretty much.
How much is this? I mean, I know we like to look at kids as being maybe part of the issue, that they're not coping well. We look at society like the big pharma and social media, but at the end of the day, the home life structure is key. Now, when I was doing my book last year, I ran across a statistic that was amazing, that there's more Adderall prescribed to adults now than children. So where do you think kids are getting Adderall to take to school to sell? Now, my son was selling him at pills he was prescribed, but kids are going to their parents' medicine cabinet. So we have parents on one side of their mouth say, don't drink, don't smoke, don't have sex, don't do this, don't do this. But then at home, they're drinking. Maybe they're smoking pot because it's legal. Doesn't mean you have to do it just because it's legal. Newsflash. But to me, it's like, I think we all have some culpability. Parents, kids, society. But social media, no question. I grew up in the 80s. We never had that pressure of, there was no internet. So even in college, it barely existed for me. So we never dealt with that. The kids today, it's hard for parents my age to deal with kids today because we always think back to what it was when we were that age. We didn't have any of the stuff they have right now. Vaping wasn't around. I mean, we had things that were available, but I just think
the amount of drugs,
and the drugs that can kill you instantly now.
Yes.
I went to high school. We didn't have one kid die. I think there was one kid the whole time I was in high school that actually was killed in a car accident that wasn't alcohol related.
Right.
But that was the only death we had in all my 4 years. Now, I went to a school that was only 90 kids in my graduating class, so it wasn't big. But then again,
but still, the point is,
at the school here where my kids go, there's a kid dying every year.
Yeah.
Of suicide, overdose, drunk driving, something. So I just think that I think we need to do a better job as parents, and I think we need to show our kids the way, not tell our kids the way. And that mean you just quit drinking. If you're worried about your kid drinking, the first thing you can do to help them is you quit drinking. Show them I can quit. I'll quit for you, son. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be telling your kids not to go out and drink. You're just a hypocrite at that point. And anyone watching this, I would say that if you were sitting here, I would say it in front of an audience, you can't tell your kids one thing unless it's illegal. I get that. But if they're 21 or 22 and they're having some drinking problems, the first thing you can do to support them is to quit drinking. Now, I didn't do that with Seth, and I regret that. I didn't quit drinking till 14 months after he died. And I wonder if when I go back and do any guilt, which I don't have much at all, the guilt I do have is the simple fact, I wonder why I couldn't have just been man enough to help him out when he was drunk driving and going to jail and getting in trouble, all alcohol related, most of it. Why I didn't quit. And it was because I was an alcoholic and I couldn't. So it took his death to get me to quit, which is kind of pathetic. But here I am, and now I'm a better person for quitting. And I became a better man, not a bitter man, as I like to say. But I think between what we're trying to do, DeeJae, is that you shouldn't have to take death.
Right.
You shouldn't have to bury a child or a spouse or a brother or a sister.
Get to that.
But it does, unfortunately, and it did for me. But I'm going to go out and tell my story, and hopefully people say, well, I got my 3 kids here. One son is making poor choices. Maybe my daughter's doing things that I wouldn't do when I was that age, but they're still alive. I have a chance. When they're dead, you have no chance.
Yes, very true. But I agree with the point of really, not educating, but teaching, right? Giving the information to our children about all these things, and a lot of it has to do similarly, right, with whether it's educating them on heart matters, soul matters, right? Like real life matters. I can't explain it. I mean, science and English and math and arithmetic and all that is great, but there needs to be courses on just emotion and mental health and how to
self-confidence.
Go back to having more conversations like that, and not, you're going to cut out art and you're going to cut out music, and then what's left?
Right.
You're stripping everything out of schools, and I'm not an educator, and I know that it's difficult from an educator standpoint that they're not given funding, and that's a whole nother discussion. And it's not on educators, and that's not either what I'm saying. But you're right. It starts in the home. And talking about the foster care, I know we went to, that's how that kind of conversation really evolved, was from, but yes, children, whether it be in the home and in school systems, and there just has to be, I think, a collaboration, an overall perspective change on that we need to address the youth before they're adults, and then damage is done. Or it's It's a reactionary, like, okay, now we got to fix it. Now it's, like, you're fixing. It's not preventing. What is that called? Like, instead of like addressing it and preventing it on the forefront, it's like, okay, now we've got a problem, and now we're all like treatment.
Is that the rehab?
Not necessarily rehab, because I don't really speak to alcohol or substance abuse, like rehab facilities, but it could be like a mental health facility, it could be a psychiatric facility, it could be any kind of facility, but generally the same thing.
Don't you think everything falls under the mental health umbrella?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, generally, like, whole person, you have to consider the mental health, the heart and the mind together. And teach adults to listen. I think that's some of the problem sometimes, because we diagnose
specific individual issues like ADD. Seth was diagnosed ADD, where I think above ADD was mental health, undiagnosed mental health concerns and issues that we had, that we never diagnosed, because his descent into substance abuse happened so quickly after his Adderall was given to him. But I often wonder if we can get to kids and say, you don't, attention deficit disorder, let's say, for example, you're so lucky to have it. You know how many kids would love to have your energy and your hyper focus and your intensity? Instead of putting a label on kids and saying you're a werewolf, you're going to turn into eating humans at a next full moon, take this pill so you don't turn into something evil. I just think that's
language gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. It's a stigma.
Putting that on people, whether it's
what's wrong with it's attention deficit's not a disorder. It's not a disorder. I have it. Am I disabled? Hell no. I've never been. My company I built up at 23 has 9 advisors and 7 full-time staff. I've been doing this for 30 years. I have a radio show.
You're fully able. I'm right.
Yeah, I've been a functional ADD person. I tell people all the time, especially kids. I meet some of my son's boys, Ian and Roman. They'll come over to the house, and I can see the ADD ones. They're hyper. Mm-hmm. I say, man, give me a high five, dude. You have a superpower, brother. You have something I have.
Aww.
You have ADD, and you can see their eyes light up, because their parents probably don't tell them that, because you can't have caffeine because you're too hyper. You can't do this because you're too hyper. It's like, my dad always said, you know what? You can't put that into kids, but you can sure in hell take it out of them. So you can't put energy into kids and hyperactivity, intensity, but you can take it out of them by numbing them down or telling them it's bad.
Chemical restraint.
So let's don't do that. Let's empower kids to use ADD to do great heroic things, and that's
awesome. I think it's using what you got, using it to your advantage. What is it that makes you unique? What is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you stand out in a crowd and be able to problem solve in a totally new, cool, refreshing way? Like, I want to hear that. That's what I want to hear.
Even the opposite, the quiet kids. There's just as many as them, too. There's probably more, that's not a disorder. You don't need to be more vocal. It's like, that's who you are. That's how you roll. I have, Ian and Roman are so different. My 2 boys are so different. Roman's 18. He came out as gay a year ago. Yeah. He is so different. He's cerebral. He wants to be a math teacher. He's into chemistry. We go and we're buying something at the store, and we're there for 2 hours. Ian and I come in. We're there for 2 minutes. We're both just quick decision makers. We don't ponder over things. I don't measure things.
Yeah.
I got a theory. My life, I'll make it fit, and if it doesn't fit, I'll make it fit. That's kind of how I do things. Whereas Roman and Ian are so different, but they're same parents, same household, but they're uniquely different. So as a dad, I have to deal with their challenges differently. I can't come at it the same way.
Absolutely.
And Seth was different.
You got to
too.
meet each one where they're at individually.
Right.
Son, you're over here. I'm going to meet you over there. Son, you're over here. Okay, I'm going to be over there with you.
And that's the boilerplate. The antithesis to that's the boilerplate methodology that we have in medicine, and we have in most things out there today is, labeling people. And
then the standard, here's your prescription of what? Wellbutrin or Prozac or whatever,
Lorazepam, whatever it is.
Whatever. Yeah. Standard antidepressant, whatever.
So you're familiar with the Living Undeterred next year in May in 2022. We're going on the road. And we're going to stop by and hopefully be able to meet you eventually. But part of this whole thing, when I got to thinking about this thing, DeeJae, was a lot less about Jeff Johnston's story. I've told my story so many times at times I don't want to say I get tired of telling it, but it's, I want to hear your story. I want to hear more about other stories. So I have a feeling that when we're out there going around to these states, that it's going to be quite humbling to talk to people on every single stop that have stories. I'll tell you a quick story that happened the other day. And I'll try to change some of the names and stuff to make it so people that were involved don't know who I'm talking about. But the other day, I was in a garage, somebody's garage. I was helping somebody move. And, just going through the death of my spouse and grieving with that. And a neighbor came across the street helping doing some moving and stuff. And I was talking to this person and found out in a very short amount of time he had a brother that was in prison and had got out, and on his birthday did heroin with fentanyl and died. First person I met. And as I'm helping doing some more things, another neighbor comes from across the street. So I'm talking to her. She hears my story, which, I'm comfortable being vulnerable. I figure if I let my guard down, people let their guard down. Like that guy would never have told me about his brother if I wouldn't have told him about my son.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my wife.
Yeah.
And so then the lady starts going in. Well, that's unfortunate. I know what it's like to lose a child. I'm like, huh?
Wow.
You too? Her grandson hung himself in her basement 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm sitting there going, I'm in a garage with two random strangers, and all three of us have had the most traumatic event happen, all involving mental health, substance abuse, overdoses, alcoholism. This is one frickin' block. This is one garage in one town, in one city, in just America. Think how big this problem is, and I'm going to go around the whole country for 3 months. Every single day, I'm going to have a day like that in the garage. So when I say it's going to be life-changing to me, I'm never going to come back the same person. I don't want to come back. When my wife died, I wasn't the same person. When my son died, I wasn't the same person. So I'm used to changing my skin. I'm very used to being uncomfortable. And so I want to go out there, take off, and I don't ever want to come back. And as I get further down this journey, I'm like, this is so much not about me. It's about the two neighbors. It's about Sam Gary, the kid who was on my podcast, Suicidal Ideation. It's about Steve Grant, who lost Chris and Kelly to heroin overdoses. It's about Danielle McLean, who was raped and she was prostituted and she was a drug dealer. It's about all these beautiful people that have now survived these things, and not just survive. Danielle runs an aerospace engineering company. Sam runs his Kick It for a Cause suicide prevention. Steve Grant wrote a book and raised $1 million. It's like there's a lot of us out there, and people that have been through these things have to know that they're not alone.
Absolutely.
And that's why you and I do what we do. Is that
I just think it just takes that connection, right? Like one connection, and I always talk about that too. It just takes one person to really really help change the perspective and change the trajectory. To believe in you, or to give you that confidence, or to be like, I've been through that too. And you're just like, wow, okay. So yeah, that's important. But I think that, going out and making those connections and really bringing in that community.
Let me ask you a question, a little jump away from this intense, deep topic here for a second. But and I've watched a lot of your conversations. I've a lot of the live streams. I just kind of jump in live streams. I don't talk a lot. I just kind of like to listen. I like to be a fly on the wall. But there's quite a few of these out there that get very deep. I mean, spiritual. The soul, the aura, the karma. And I know you're that's right down your alley. And you and I've talked before. I'm agnostic, so I'm not a believer in. I've kind of built my own spirituality from within. That's what I like to call it. My mind isn't from above or below; it's from within.
Okay. And
that's how I roll. Now, you are spiritual. I'd like to know how do you define spirituality? What's that? What's an otherly presence mean to you? How does that help you?
Ooh, that's a good one. So for me, I was raised in a Christian church background. I was raised religious, so I do have a lot of knowledge and teachings from just an upbringing in the church and Sunday school, whatnot. And growing up, I became a little bit more hard-headed, a little more wild, a little more testing the waters, and I wanted to see what life was about. But now at this stage in my life, like we talked about meditating a little bit, and I'm going to go there.
Right.
Really is that belief system, like that internal belief system that I've created to fit what I feel is good for me. And it's not so. Given my work and feeling that as I have this energy and I want to share it, it has a lot to do with my spirituality, being a person who wants to assist others through their hardships and stuff. And for me, just really taking my mind and my heart and my soul into that work and keeping myself in that space that I know I'm supposed to be, that's where I belong. I like to take my mind into thoughts and into, how do we say this? Mental spaces and imagery, and to just listen to what the universe brings, the intuition brings, the gut. A lot of people know about the gut being sensory, right? We get information from our gut, even though, medical science, and I'm not really into medical and science, but I know they're starting to come around more, all this is really connected. There's just so much information that we're getting, and it's not just from the mind. And we all know the mind plays tricks on us. So
absolutely.
So this is where I came from an intellectual, go to school, go to college, go to grad school, textbooks, research papers, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, that's dandy, that's great. I understand that. But I mean, it's got to be more than just what the textbooks say, right? Or what the doctors say, or what what your mind is telling you to say. So it's got to go with your feeling. Then you take it more to the feeling and what that intuition and that spiritual guidance says.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, when I talk about spirituality, is just kind of listening to what comes to me, and what makes sense to me, and listening. A lot of listening, not so much believing in expectations or behavior.
It's interesting you said the word believing, and I just interrupted you, and you were going to say behave, right?
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, is what is more important, believing in something or how you behave? See, I have an answer to that, and to me, it's a no-brainer. And I'll let you answer it, though, first.
Well, I think your behavior, obviously, is an expression of what's going on in the inside, whether it's mentally or emotionally. Your behavior, right? And studying psychology, A, B's, and C's, right? A is the antecedent, and B, the behavior, and C, the consequence. And, how we, take that, and how our behavior is really just a kind kind of like I said, an expression of what we're thinking and feeling, and and it's not always like the right way to express it.
I think belief will fuel your behavior.
Yeah.
It could be
absolutely.
You could believe in way a heaven looks, and so if you act a certain way here, you get rewarded, and so that belief will make you do things that maybe don't fit into what society wants to be a good human. But you're going to get to heaven and be with a world up there that looks appealing to you. I'm trying to dodge around a lot of sensitive things here.
You said heaven,
without
though.
offending.
Right.
Yeah, I know I did. But it's my podcast. I can say what I want to say. But I love this conversation about believing in behavior, because I am one that is less impressed and more in action. In other words, I'll give you an example. Here, it's people like examples, because I don't want to just sit here and talk. I had a friend of mine that had an injury, and pretty serious injury. I'll be very sensitive in divulging like where and what happened, but it was out of work for a long time. This person's a hard worker, outdoor physical labor type thing. It was an injury. They were out of work for a long time. Prognosis was not good. Since then, it's gotten better. Now that person's back to work, so that's the good news. But at the time, we didn't know that. And so on Facebook and a lot of these places, there was all this outpouring, which everyone does. And I've done this as well. We're praying for you, thoughts and prayers, hope well, blah, blah, blah. And after a while, I got to thinking, prayers ain't paying bills for this guy and his family. He's got 3 kids. He's married, a mortgage. I don't know what their income is, but he's one of the top, he's probably, I don't know if he is the main breadwinner, but it doesn't matter. They both do well. And now he's out of work, and there's going to be some ramifications long term. But it seems like everyone's sending thoughts and prayers, then moving on to the next agenda for the day. And I'm like, well, screw that. So I set up a GoFundMe.
Aww.
And I decided instead of believing this friend was going to get better and praying they got better, I wasn't going to sit around and wait for that. So I was going to go raise this person money. So I set up a GoFundMe. They raised $9,000.
Wow.
And the family got $9,000. And I'm not saying that God wouldn't have done better. Maybe God will do better when we're all not here and in some shape or form. But that $9,000 came from the GoFundMe site that I set up, and everybody contributed. I just came up with the idea that I got tired of everyone praying. Praying wasn't paying bills for this friend of mine.
Yeah.
And there's a concrete example of putting things in action. I decided to do something, and you can replicate that. Anyone watching this that's got a friend or somebody going through something, and you're trying to raise money, instead of just writing a note and saying, well, I hope you get better, our thoughts and prayers, well, why don't you go do something? Go volunteer for whatever organization that note is in reference to,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding very, I don't know.
But I see what you're saying, and I think
we can do better. We can do better.
I think so. I think we can do better, and I think there, you have to have that desire to take action, like want to do something for yourself. Right. I think, again, it goes back to the self. What do you want to do for yourself? Do you want to be stuck, or do you want to inch forward? And inching is okay. It doesn't. No one's telling you that you need to go from here to there, perfectly and immediately, and all these expectations. But to really just take care of yourself and take care of each other, and to be respectful and gentle, and just give each other space and allow movement and energy and support. I think that's, for me, the biggest mission is to keep encouraging that. To keep breaking those stigmas, and to keep breaking those discriminatory beliefs, and that are just keep getting imposed on us, that keep putting people down and making them have mental health crises, having them breakdowns, having them seek refuge in drugs, or seek escapism and cope with all these other things, because it's so much put on one.
And that's one of the problems with, like cancel culture, is that we're in a society now where even you and I having conversations about things, I have to be careful how I word things. Which is kind of unfortunate, because in a free society, we really should be able to share what we want. And you're free to be offended. You're free to agree.
Absolutely.
My thoughts aren't yours aren't mine. So I think when we start telling people, I understand there's certain words and things that just aren't acceptable. No question. But I think for us to solve some of these problems, if we have to dance around the issues because we may offend somebody. Wow, if someone can tell me that that's the way to deal with these things, then I'll go ahead. But I think the numbers don't justify that.
I agree.
People aren't killing themselves because they're happy.
Right, and I agree. And I think that's why it's so important that I stream what I stream on LinkedIn. And
you do. I think you put the suicide prevention hotline.
Yes.
You do the mental health awareness.
I do.
You're like one of the only ones that actually does that. I saw that on your first podcast.
Yeah, and I think it's important when it's okay to ask. I thought it's okay to ask. It's okay to talk about it. You have to. You should be. We have to allow people to be comfortable, because that's how we're losing. People are dying because they feel so much shame and so much guilt because of that, what everybody casts on them it's
Do you worry about triggers? Do you worry about sometimes when you're doing things that you trigger people?
Of course, and
I do too.
I put a trigger warning in my intro. I do the verbal trigger warning. I put it in my promo post. And I do, because it is. But again, it needs to be talked about. So, and if you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to listen to it, that's fine. Move it along. That's fine. But at the same time, it needs to be talked about, and people need to know that, it's okay to talk about. And eventually, it's like the more you talk about it, then the more like, oh, okay, well then I heard it here. Oh, I heard it over there. And if I hear it all over the place, then I guess it's something that's a little bit more newsworthy, right? It's a little bit more, I'm hearing more of it, so I guess it's becoming a little bit more common. And that's what we want to do. We want to allow openness and safety for people to move forward, to get the help they need, to reach out, and let people know it's okay that they're not okay. I haven't been okay for like 3 weeks. You've been going through your stuff too.
I've been miserable for a while.
Yeah, and it's okay. And you put your post up and you say I'm okay, or I put a post I'm not okay.
Right.
But again, we're being there. We're relatable. We're acknowledging emotion. We're acknowledging what we go through, and it should not be dismissed. That dismissal, that constant dismissing, is what makes people hide and bury themselves.
I know, and I keep thinking to myself that if what we are doing is working, then we should see the numbers start reversing, the trends go in a different direction, and we're not. So I need to step my game up. You need to step your game up. Mom and dad's watching this needs to step their game up. Kids need to stop drinking and smoking and getting in trouble and lying to their parents. I mean, and society needs to stop making these things not just more accessible, but make sure that, for example, like with harm reduction, maybe if my son could have tested that heroin, and maybe if there was a facility that was non-judgmental, you weren't arrested, and you could have someone come and test your heroin, maybe my son lives another day. Maybe that was the day he decided to stop everything. I don't know. I have to tell you, I guarantee you that some of these people died from overdoses, certainly weren't planning on dying.
Absolutely.
Certainly weren't. And they wouldn't have done that heroin had they known fentanyl was in it.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know.
We're just losing too many people. We're losing too many lives, too many youth, too many adults. I mean, too many veterans, you name it. We're just losing people everywhere.
Young people, too.
A lot of young people. I heard that the highest rates of suicide in kindergarten, like the rates of suicide in kindergartners now, has even skyrocketed.
That's just insane.
Kindergartners. That
shouldn't even be in the same sentence.
I know. But I heard this statistic in a podcast from an expert somewhere. I might have to do a little research, but it's something to just consider that, I think it was a training or a local training that they're talking about, even how they're seeing the suicide go up in elementary school. Like they're having to provide.
That's got to be social media. That's got to be social media driven, don't you think, DeeJae?
A lot of it has to be, absolutely. The accessibility
with imposter
to all
syndrome
this.
and
Listen,
kids just
I got
always
a little
seeing
guy.
other kids.
I have a little guy. And I'm going to tell you, 6. I got a little guy. He's a 6. All he watches is YouTube. And the other day he said, I'm going to kill myself. And he heard it in a YouTube video.
Not.
No,
he did not.
Yes. And I said, where'd you learn that? Why would you say that? And he's like, and he was saying it in a joking manner, but it's because of the YouTube videos. So my little 6-year-old, I can see already how it affects his mentality and how it's not Saturday morning cartoons anymore, right? We're not watching Bugs Bunny anymore. We're not watching. Now it's YouTube, and it's not a commercial. Now it's a skip the ad.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a different world.
Yeah, and you can't control what YouTubers say. They're saying all kinds of stuff just to get, likes and subscriptions and, like.
Yeah,
and that's
and
what
they
the
can
kids
get
are
on the internet. They can get anything they want with their phone.
Yeah.
And if not your phone, then their friend's phone.
Yeah.
So let's do this as we're kind of wrapping this up.
Oh.
This has been very enjoyable. What's next for you? What are some projects that you have that you're thinking about?
Projects. That's a good one. I want to start a season 2 with my show. Like I said, I wanted to take a little break and hopefully start a season 2. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do and how this goes because I'm kind of new. But I'm also hoping, and I've been kind of playing with the idea of just trying some speaking engagements, trying to figure out how I can step into more speaking and really working on those public speaking skills. So we'll see. I'm really hoping that eventually I can get some travel time in and get out there and really meet.
Have you done any of that yet, or is all yours still virtual?
Oh, everything's still virtual for me. I'm hoping. And I'm patiently waiting, and it's totally fine. I know I'm in Florida, so the numbers are still going up. We're a hot spot now.
I know they are.
So, just, still kind of waiting out this wave of this pandemic. But eventually, if, the opportunity comes, and that would be fantastic. Projects? I don't know.
A book?
No, I'm not a book. No books. No books.
Why?
I'm not a coach. I don't coach, so no books, no coaching.
Okay.
I don't know, but I like speaking. I'm kind of intrigued by public speaking. I'd love to do a TEDx at some point in my life.
I would too. That sounds very intriguing.
So
yeah,
that's just a dream.
How do people reach you? And tell a little bit about your podcast, the name of it. How do people, if people want to start following you, subscribe to you, how do they find DeeJae?
Sure. So my show, Let Your Mayhem Be Known. I should have probably shared that in the beginning, but that's okay. Let Your Mayhem Be Known. I stream on Monday nights. I stream to YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn. But all the content is on YouTube. All the episodes are there. My handle, Silver Fox Talks. You can find that. Use that across all handles. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. So I'm all over the place. I don't really do a lot of social media, but I like to stream, and I do have some profiles there where, I'm available to be connected with. And I prefer LinkedIn. That's my preferred platform. So
I do too.
Yeah.
So let your mayhem be known.
Yes.
And what nights and what time is that normally on?
Mondays at 7:30 Eastern time. Eastern time.
Wow. Yeah. I enjoy the show.
Thank you.
And sometimes the time zone throws me for a loop with some of these people, but
that's okay.
No, but I really enjoy you coming on to the podcast today, and I'm
you.
sure people are going to be excited to watch your show, watch you grow. Like I said, I've been really, the Living Undeterred project's been around since January. I dabbled at social media. I've been on LinkedIn like 8 years, but really only like a year. Mm-hmm. But just the, stratospheric velocity that some of you people have gone up is just, it's amazing.
Oh.
I remember your very first podcast with Nancy Barros.
Yes. Oh boy,
I
that was
that.
in January. I was a lot of anxiety. My voice was cracking through the whole episode. I was shaking.
I thought you did great. I didn't notice that.
Thank
I didn't
you.
notice any
I
of that.
felt a little bit ADD, like I just didn't know what to do, where to look. Felt like but that's part of the, and that goes back to just you doing what's right for you and not being fearful, not living in fear, living undeterred, and just kind of getting through it because you know what your mission is, you know what your purpose is.
Well, Nancy said the phrase, what was it, comfortable in discomfort or comfortable being uncomfortable? Or
Yeah.
She's got some phrase that she was actually she was one of my, I think one of my first 3 or 4 guests. And then I knew she was going to be on your show, and so I jumped in and got to watch it. Mm-hmm. It was a live stream, right?
Yeah, live stream. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, mine's a taped podcast, whereas yours was a live stream, so I was able to I've done a few live streams, and those have been very enjoyable, but
Yeah, I've seen
most
them.
of what I do is most of what I do is the podcast. But anyway, thank you very much. And I'm sure when this gets out there, a lot of people are going to be in touch with you. And I really suggest people follow you and subscribe, because I think you're doing an admirable, heroic, awesome job and trying to this mental health, substance abuse, addiction, disability,
trauma,
stigma breaking,
trauma,
chaos, life, whatever you want to call it.
All the things
just trying to have a better well-being.
Right? Yeah. Just share that connection. We're all human.
Yeah. Well, listen,
Thank you.
It was an honor and a pleasure, DeeJae. I'm sure our paths will cross soon.
Absolutely.
So keep doing what you're doing. And as I say with every guest, and I don't think I have to tell you this, but keep living undeterred, okay?
You got it.